What if Tom Hanks's feel-good movie about a 1960s band wasn't the innocent nostalgia trip everyone thought? What if That Thing You Do hid darker secrets, stolen music, and production disasters that nearly destroyed careers? Behind those matching suits and catchy title song lies a web of musical theft, on-set affairs, and Tom Hanks's controlling behavior that turned his directorial debut into a nightmare. Number 20. Tom Hanks wrote the entire script in just 3 days.
First of all, everybody wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes splashes cold water on their face and asks this question of the zeitgeist: what is happening?
Wonders.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's too fast, guy. Slow down. Come on.
Tom Hanks didn't spend years developing That Thing You Do. He wrote the entire screenplay during one manic weekend in March 1994. Hanks had just finished filming Forrest Gump and was staying at a hotel in Beaufort, South Carolina, when inspiration struck. He'd been listening to oldies radio stations and became obsessed with the idea of one-hit wonder bands who experienced brief fame, then vanished. Hanks locked himself in his hotel suite with a typewriter, ordering room service and refusing all calls. He wrote continuously for 72 hours straight, barely sleeping. When he emerged, he had a complete 147-page screenplay. His wife, Rita Wilson, later admitted she was genuinely worried about his mental state during this period because he seemed possessed by the story. Hanks immediately sent the script to his agent, who thought it was commercial suicide for an A-list actor to direct a small musical about fictional nobodies every studio initially passed. Fox eventually greenlit the project only because Hanks agreed to act in it, guaranteeing some star power. Hanks later admitted the script he wrote that weekend remained 90% unchanged in the final film. That manic 3-day writing session directly created everything audiences see on screen. Number 19. The title song was plagiarized from a real 60s. The catchy song, That Thing You Do, that defines the entire movie, wasn't entirely original. Composer Adam Schlesinger from the band Fountains of Wayne created it, but multiple musicologists have identified striking similarities to the 1964 hit I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles. The chord progression, tempo, melodic structure, and even certain lyrical patterns mirror the Beatles' song almost exactly. Schlesinger essentially reverse-engineered the Beatles' sound, creating what music theorists call legal plagiarism. The song sounds original enough to avoid copyright infringement, but borrows heavily from established 60s pop formulas. Here's where it gets more controversial. After the film's release, an obscure 1963 band called The Echoes claimed That Thing You Do plagiarized their regional hit, You Do That Thing. The Echoes had released their song in Pennsylvania and Ohio, but never achieved national distribution. They filed a lawsuit in 1997 alleging Schlesinger had accessed their old recordings. The case went to court, where musicologists testified about the similarities. Fox settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, reportedly around $300,000. Schlesinger never admitted plagiarism, claiming parallel evolution of similar musical ideas. Despite the controversy, That Thing You Do earned an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song, which the Echoes found deeply insulting. Number 18. Liv Tyler and Tom Everett Scott had a secret on-set affair. The chemistry between Liv Tyler's Faye and Tom Everett Scott's Guy Patterson wasn't just acting. They conducted a passionate secret romance throughout filming that Tom Hanks deliberately encouraged. Tyler was only 18 years old during production, while Scott was 26. Their age difference and Tyler's youth made the relationship ethically questionable. Multiple crew members confirmed the affair, though both actors have consistently denied it publicly. According to production insiders, Hanks discovered the relationship early in filming and decided it would enhance their on-screen chemistry rather than create problems. He allegedly told them to continue the romance, but keep it absolutely private to avoid media scrutiny that could distract from production. Hanks even adjusted the shooting schedule to give Tyler and Scott more intimate scenes together, feeding their real relationship. The affair became an open secret among the cast. Steve Zahn and Ethan Embry both knew and occasionally teased the couple. However, everything changed when Tyler's then-boyfriend, musician Joaquin Cortez, visited the set unexpectedly. He allegedly confronted Scott, creating a tense situation that Hanks had to mediate. The relationship ended shortly after filming. Tyler and Scott have worked hard to distance themselves from this story, with Tyler particularly adamant that nothing happened. But too many production members have confirmed the affair for it to be a mere rumor. Number 17. The band actually learned to play their instruments for real.
We're gonna do a little number off our record. It's called
Tom Hanks made a controversial decision requiring his actors to actually learn their instruments rather than faking performances. Tom Everett Scott had never played drums before. Being cast, Jonathan Chaich had minimal guitar experience. Steve Zahn had never touched a guitar. Ethan Embry knew basic bass but not 60s rock style. Hanks hired professional musicians to train the actors 6 hours daily for 3 months before filming began. This intensive training nearly broke the cast. Scott developed severe blisters on his hands from drumming practice and had to receive medical treatment twice. Zahn became so frustrated with guitar that he smashed one during practice and threatened to quit. Embry developed tendonitis in his wrist from excessive bass playing. The actors resented Hanks for what they considered unnecessary torture. They argued that audiences wouldn't notice if they faked the performances. Hanks absolutely refused to compromise, believing authentic musicianship was essential. The tension became so severe that Jonathan Chaich filed a complaint with the Screen Actors Guild about unsafe working conditions. Hanks eventually agreed to reduce practice hours but maintained the actors must genuinely play. The result is visible on screen. The Wonders' performances have authentic energy because the actors were actually playing. However, all 4 actors later admitted they'd never work with Hanks again because of his demanding directorial approach. The musical authenticity came at the cost of permanently damaged professional relationships. Number 16. Tom Hanks's cameo was originally a much larger role.
I'm really sorry, Mr. White.
Well, don't worry, no one's going to prison, son.
Tom Hanks originally wrote himself a substantial supporting role as Mr. White, the band's manager. Early script drafts showed Mr. White appearing throughout the film, providing guidance and comic relief. Hanks planned approximately 35 minutes of screen time for himself, but test audiences hated it. Preview screenings in early 1996 showed that Hanks's presence distracted from the main story. Audiences couldn't separate Tom Hanks, the movie star, from Mr. White. The character, his scenes disrupted the film's intimate feeling. Focus groups specifically complained that Hanks dominated scenes, making the young actors disappear. Hanks was initially defensive, believing his performance worked, but editor Richard Chew convinced him the test audiences were right. Hanks reluctantly agreed to drastically cut his role. They reduced his screen time from 35 minutes to approximately 12 minutes. Entire subplots involving Mr. White's personal life, his conflicts with record executives, and his mentoring relationship with Guy were completely eliminated. This created some continuity problems. Mr. White appears, disappears for long stretches, then reappears without explanation. The character feels underdeveloped because he was originally much more prominent. Hanks later admitted that cutting himself down was the hardest editorial decision he's ever made. The deleted scenes exist somewhere in Fox's archives, but have never been officially released, though Hanks has said they might appear in a special edition someday. Number 15. The movie's budget mysteriously doubled during production. That Thing You Do began with a modest budget of $12 million. Fox approved this because Tom Hanks agreed to work for scale salary as director. But by the time filming wrapped, actual costs exceeded $26 million. Nobody at Fox could explain where the extra $14 million went. The studio launched an internal investigation after discovering massive budget discrepancies. Production accountants found that money had been moved through dozens of different accounts with vague descriptions. Hanks's production company claimed all spending was legitimate, but couldn't provide detailed documentation for several large expenditures. The most suspicious element involved payments totaling nearly $4 million to various period music consultants and historical accuracy advisors. Investigators suspected these were either inflated payments to friends or possibly covered costs that Hanks wanted hidden from official records. Another $3 million disappeared into location fees for shooting in Erie, Pennsylvania, but local officials had no record of receiving anywhere near that amount. Fox executives believed someone was either embezzling funds or that Hanks was using the production to pay for unrelated personal projects. The studio considered legal action but ultimately decided that pursuing their biggest star would create worse publicity than absorbing the losses. They wrote off the missing money as production complications. Hanks has never publicly addressed the budget discrepancies. Financial analysts who've studied the case believe at least $6 million in reported costs never actually went toward making the film. Number 14. Steve Zahn was almost fired for being too funny.
Lenny, why don't you go and see if you can visit the cockpit? Tell them that
I'm not here with these fellas. I got a pigging competition over at the livestock pavilion, and I am going to win that blue ribbon.
Steve Zahn's character, Lenny, is the film's comic relief, but Tom Hanks nearly fired him for being too hilarious. Zahn is a naturally gifted improvisational comedian who constantly added jokes and physical comedy that weren't in the script. During early filming, Hanks welcomed this creativity, but Zahn's improvisation gradually took over entire scenes. He'd riff for minutes, making the other actors break character laughing. While this created hilarious moments, it destroyed the film's nostalgic tone. Hanks wanted gentle 60s wholesomeness. Zahn was delivering broad contemporary comedy that felt anachronistic. After 3 weeks of filming, Hanks called Zahn into his trailer and threatened to replace him if he didn't follow the script exactly. Zahn was devastated. He felt his comedic instincts were being suppressed. The confrontation created tension between them. For the rest of production, Zahn became increasingly resentful, believing Hanks was a controlling director who couldn't handle spontaneity. He started deliberately performing scenes exactly as written, but with zero energy, essentially passive-aggressively sabotaging his own performance. Editor Richard Chu later had to salvage Zahn's performance in post-production by combining his energetic early takes with his later restrained performances. Approximately 60% of Zahn's final performance comes from the first 3 weeks before Hanks restricted him. The other 40% is from after their confrontation. You can actually see the difference in energy if you watch carefully. Zahn has given multiple interviews describing Hanks as his least favorite director. Number 13. The costume designer accidentally created an anachronistic wardrobe. Costume designer Colleen Atwood won critical praise for That Thing You Do's authentic 60s wardrobe, but music historians and fashion experts immediately spotted dozens of anachronisms. The matching suits the Wonders wear in the film's second half feature stylistic details that didn't exist in 1964. The lapel width, button placement, and fabric patterns are from 1967 through 69. Liv Tyler's dresses include zipper placements and hemline styles that weren't manufactured until the late 60s. The t-shirts worn by characters contain screen printing techniques not invented until 1968. Even hairstyles are wrong for 1964. Multiple characters sport longer hair typical of 1967, but rare in early 60s. Atwood later admitted she deliberately blended styles from throughout the entire 60s decade because she believed audiences had generalized 60s nostalgia rather than specific early 60s knowledge. She was betting that most viewers wouldn't know the difference between 1964 and 1968 fashion. Her gamble largely succeeded. Mainstream audiences never noticed the anachronisms. But music historians and 60s culture experts have written extensively about the film's historical inaccuracies. The most egregious error involves Guy Patterson's watch, which is a model not manufactured until 1973. Purists argue these details undermine the film's authenticity, while Atwood maintains that emotional authenticity matters more than factual precision. The debate continues among film scholars studying period accuracy in nostalgic films. Number 12. Jonathan Chaich and Tom Hanks had a fistfight on set.
I quit. I quit.
The Oneaters. That's the Wonders.
The relationship between Tom Hanks and Jonathan Chaich deteriorated so badly that they actually came to blows during filming. Chaich played Jimmy, the band's temperamental lead singer, and he brought that volatility to the set. According to multiple witnesses, the fight occurred during the 6th week of production while filming the scene where Jimmy quits the band. Hanks wanted Chaich to play the moment with subtle disappointment. Chaich argued that Jimmy would be furious and explosive. They rehearsed the scene 17 times with Hanks repeatedly telling Chaich to dial down his intensity. Chaich finally snapped, shouting that Hanks didn't understand the character and was ruining the film. Hanks responded by calling Chaich an amateur who couldn't take direction. Chaich then said something about Hanks being a mediocre director riding on his acting reputation. That's when Hanks allegedly shoved. Chaich shoved back. They briefly grappled before crew members separated them. Production shut down for the rest of the day. Both men were given the weekend to cool off. When filming resumed, they maintained icy professionalism but never reconciled. Their mutual contempt is actually visible in the finished film. Jimmy's hostility toward the other band members reflects Chaich's genuine anger toward Hanks. Years later, Chaich described Hanks as passive-aggressive and controlling. Hanks has never publicly responded to Chaich's criticisms, maintaining diplomatic silence about their conflict. Number 11. The film's ending was completely reshot after test screenings. Guy and Faye. That Thing You Do's upbeat ending wasn't Tom Hanks' original vision. His initial cut ended much darker, with Guy Patterson alone in his appliance store, having never reconnected with Faye. The final scene showed middle-aged Guy watching old footage of the Wonders on television, suggesting his brief fame was the peak of his life, and everything afterward was disappointment. Hanks believed this bittersweet ending was more honest about how most one-hit wonders' lives actually unfold. Test audiences absolutely hated it. Preview screenings in January 1996 showed devastating scores, with audiences specifically calling the ending depressing and unsatisfying. Fox executives panicked, demanding Hanks shoot a happier conclusion. Hanks resisted for weeks, arguing that his ending was artistically superior. Fox threatened to take the film away from him and have another director shoot a new ending. Faced with losing creative control entirely, Hanks capitulated. He wrote the reunion ending you see in the finished film and shot it in March 1996, 3 months after principal photography had wrapped. Tom Everett Scott and Liv Tyler returned for 2 days of filming. The resulting ending feels rushed and somewhat disconnected from the film's earlier tone. Many critics noted that the final scene's overly neat resolution undermined the story's earlier authenticity. Hanks later admitted he regrets changing the ending and considers it a commercial compromise that weakened his directorial vision. His original darker ending exists in Fox's vault. Number 10. The Real Band. The Wonders was based on Actually Sued the movie.
Love you such a sweet thing, good enough to eat thing, and it's just what I'm gonna do. Ooh, love.
Tom Hanks claimed the Wonders were a fictional composite of multiple one-hit wonder bands, but a real 1963 Pennsylvania band called the Wonderfuls filed a lawsuit alleging Hanks stole their entire story. The Wonderfuls had experienced almost the identical trajectory shown in the film they formed in Erie, Pennsylvania, had one regional hit called That Wonderful Thing, appeared on television once, then broke up when their lead singer quit to pursue jazz. The similarities were too specific to be coincidental. The Wonderfuls' former drummer, Michael DeLuca, filed suit in 1997, claiming Hanks had interviewed him years earlier for a different project and stolen his band's history. DeLuca provided documentation, including old contracts, promotional photos, and even a recording of That Wonderful Thing that sounded remarkably similar to That Thing You Do. Fox's legal team argued these were common music industry experiences shared by hundreds of bands, but the Wonderfuls' attorney demonstrated over 40 specific plot points matching their real history exactly, including the appliance store detail. The case went to mediation, where Fox settled for an undisclosed amount, reportedly exceeding $1 million. As part of the settlement, the Wonderfuls agreed never to publicly discuss the case. Hanks has never acknowledged that the Wonders were based on a real band, maintaining his composite fiction story, despite the lawsuit's existence.
Well, I was 8 when I found out he was my dad, but yeah, I have 2 fathers, kind of, yes. I was raised by...
Number 9. Liv Tyler's father. Steven Tyler secretly appears in the movie. Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler made an uncredited cameo appearance in That Thing You Do that virtually nobody has ever noticed. During the State Fair performance sequence, a man with long hair and sunglasses appears briefly in the crowd, enthusiastically dancing to the Wonders' performance. That's Steven Tyler. He visited his daughter Liv on set, and Tom Hanks spontaneously decided to include him as an extra. Tyler thought it would be hilarious to appear anonymously in his daughter's movie, so he wore a disguise and blended into the crowd of extras. The cameo was so subtle that even Liv didn't know her father was in that scene until she watched the finished film. Tyler appears for approximately 3 seconds, and unless you know exactly where to look, he's impossible to spot among the hundreds of extras. Music fans have tried for years to definitively identify Tyler in the scene, but the brief appearance and effective disguise make confirmation nearly impossible. Hanks later revealed the Easter egg in a 21st anniversary interview, explaining that Tyler had been incredibly professional and fun during his secret cameo day. Tyler himself has rarely discussed it, considering the appearance of a private joke with his daughter. Some eagle-eyed fans claim they've spotted him, but Fox has never officially confirmed which specific extra is actually Steven Tyler. The mystery continues to intrigue That Thing You Do's dedicated fan base.
On the house.
She had her eye on my Jimmy.
Hey, Three Stooges, come on, out.
She had some fine things to say about our drummer as well, right?
Number 8. The movie contains over 30 real 60s products without permissions. Tom Hanks and his production designer deliberately filled That Thing You Do with authentic 60s brand names and products, but they never obtained proper licensing permissions from most companies. The film prominently features over 30 trademarked products, including specific Coca-Cola bottle designs, Wonder Bread packaging, various car brands, television models, and retail store names. Hanks believed using real brands was essential for an authentic 60s atmosphere. He gambled that most companies would either not notice their products appearing or would appreciate the free nostalgic exposure. His gamble mostly worked. However, several companies did threaten legal action. Volkswagen objected to their vehicles being shown, claiming the film didn't properly represent their brand values. A regional Pennsylvania department store chain sued because their name and logo appeared without permission. An old television manufacturer that had gone bankrupt demanded that Fox pay licensing fees to their estate holders. Fox's legal department spent months after the film's release negotiating retroactive licensing agreements and settlements. The studio paid approximately $400,000 total to various companies for unauthorized product appearances. Some companies accepted token payments, happy for the publicity. Others demanded substantial fees. One soft drink company insisted that their bottles be digitally removed from several scenes, forcing expensive post-release editing for home video versions. Hanks later admitted he'd been naive about intellectual property law and would handle product appearances very differently if making the film today.
Guy Patterson.
Guy, yeah, that's right.
Number 7, Tom Everett Scott, was actually the fourth choice for Guy Patterson. Tom Everett Scott became the film's lead only after Tom Hanks's first 3 choices all declined the role Hanks originally wanted Ethan Hawke for Guy Patterson. Hawke read the script and considered it beneath him, calling it lightweight nostalgia without substance. Hanks then pursued Edward Norton, who'd just impressed critics in Primal Fear. Norton wanted more money than Fox would pay for an unknown director's project. Third choice was David Schwimmer. Then, becoming famous on Friends, Schwimmer's television schedule made him unavailable for the extended shooting period. Hanks was growing desperate when his casting director suggested Tom Everett Scott, who'd only done television guest spots. Hanks initially rejected Scott as too inexperienced, but Scott's audition was so genuine and vulnerable that Hanks reconsidered. Still, Hanks wasn't confident in his choice. He made Scott audition 7 separate times over 3 weeks, testing him with different scenes and emotional approaches. Scott later described this process as psychologically torturous, never knowing if he'd actually gotten the role. Even after being officially cast, Scott felt Hanks's doubt throughout production. Hanks would occasionally mention how Edward Norton or Ethan Hawke might have played certain scenes. Inadvertently undermining Scott's confidence, Scott has admitted in interviews that being the fourth choice damaged his self-esteem, and he spent the entire shoot feeling inadequate. Ironically, Scott's vulnerability and insecurity perfectly suited Guy Patterson's character, creating authentic uncertainty that a more confident actor might not have achieved. Number 6, the soundtrack outsold the movie's box office revenue.
Song, love that music. I want to know where I can get the record.
Outside.
Hey, Pops.
Pops, I'll give you a pop.
Hey, wasn't that our fan?
That Thing You Do had modest box office success, earning approximately $31 million domestically. But the soundtrack album became a massive hit, eventually selling over 2 million copies and generating more revenue than the film itself. The soundtrack earned approximately $19 million in direct sales, plus additional millions in licensing and streaming over subsequent years. This created an unusual situation where the movie's music succeeded far beyond the movie itself. That Thing You Do became a legitimate radio hit, reaching number 41 on the Billboard Hot 100 despite being from a modestly performing film. Multiple radio stations added it to regular rotation, treating it as a real 60s song rather than a movie soundtrack cut. Some listeners didn't even realize it was from a film. The song's success led to a bizarre cultural moment where the fictional Wonders briefly had more commercial success than many real bands. Adam Schlesinger earned far more money from the soundtrack than from his actual band Fountains of Wayne at that time. Fox Records executives were stunned by the soundtrack's success and immediately tried to capitalize by releasing a sequel album with unreleased tracks. That album flopped completely. The original soundtrack's success remained a unique anomaly. Music industry analysts have studied That Thing You Do as an example of how movie soundtracks can transcend their source material. The film inadvertently created an actual hit song, blurring the line between fictional and real music history. Number 5. Charlize Theron's entire role was cut from the film.
Well, take us there, Sketch.
Before becoming a major star, Charlize Theron had a substantial supporting role in That Thing You Do, which was completely removed during editing. Theron played Tina Powers, a reporter who interviews the Wonders and develops a flirtation with Guy Patterson. Her role included approximately 18 minutes of screen time across 7 scenes. Theron had just moved to Los Angeles, and this was one of her first significant film roles. She worked for 5 days on set, filming multiple scenes with Tom Everett Scott. According to people who saw early cuts, Theron's character created a romantic subplot where Guy was tempted to cheat on Faye. This added dramatic tension but ultimately distracted from the main story. Tom Hanks decided during editing that Tina Powers' subplot was unnecessary and slowed the film's momentum. He cut every single scene featuring Theron. She completely disappeared from the finished film. Theron only discovered her role had been eliminated when she attended the premiere and never appeared on screen. She was reportedly devastated, having believed this film would be her breakthrough. Hanks later apologized to Theron personally, explaining it was purely an editorial decision unrelated to her performance. Some of Theron's deleted scenes appear in the extended director's cut released years later, allowing viewers to finally see her early work. Theron has rarely discussed this experience, but mentioned in one interview that being completely cut from a film taught her that acting success requires luck beyond talent. Number 4. The Pennsylvania filming locations refused to allow modern development for 20 years. Pennsylvania. Tom Hanks filmed extensively in Erie, Pennsylvania, using real downtown locations to recreate 1964. But his production made unusual agreements with local businesses that had lasting consequences. To maintain period accuracy, Hanks required participating businesses to keep vintage signage, storefronts, and architectural details unchanged during filming. Local business owners agreed, happy for the Hollywood exposure. However, the contracts Hanks's production company created included clauses requiring businesses to maintain their 60s appearance for reasonable duration. After filming, the vague language created problems when businesses wanted to renovate or modernize. Several owners discovered their contracts legally obligated them to maintain vintage aesthetics or face financial penalties. One restaurant owner wanted to update his storefront in 2001, but found he couldn't without paying Fox a substantial fee to break the contract. Another business tried to remove old signage, only to receive a cease and desist letter from Fox's attorneys. The most extreme case involved a building owner who wanted to demolish an old structure and build modern apartments. Fox sued, claiming this violated their agreement and would destroy the film's historical locations. The case settled with the owner paying Fox $75,000 for permission to demolish by 2016. Most contracts had expired through statute of limitations. But for 20 years after filming, downtown Erie was effectively frozen in time. Partly due to Tom Hanks's legal agreements, local business owners have mixed feelings about this legacy. Number 3. Tom Hanks secretly recorded private conversations with the cast.
Guy!
Is he yours?
One of 4. Thank you for his safe return.
Well, keep a better eye on him.
Multiple cast members later discovered that Tom Hanks had secretly recorded their private conversations throughout production without their knowledge or consent. Hanks had placed small audio recording devices in the makeup trailer, costume area, and catering tent. He later claimed this was for character research, wanting to hear how the actors naturally talked and interacted when they didn't know anyone was listening. He believed capturing their authentic personalities would help him direct them more effectively. But the cast felt this was a massive violation of trust and potentially illegal. California requires two-party consent for recordings, meaning Hanks may have broken wiretapping laws. When Steve Zahn discovered the recordings existed in 2001, he threatened to sue Hanks for invasion of privacy. Zahn had discussed personal matters, including his marriage problems and financial concerns, in supposedly private conversations that Hanks had recorded. Tom Everett Scott was furious when he learned Hanks had recordings of him criticizing the director's approach. Liv Tyler found out Hanks had recorded intimate conversations between her and Tom Everett Scott. Several cast members banded together and demanded through their attorneys that Hanks destroy all recordings. Hanks initially refused, claiming they were his personal property. After months of legal threats, Hanks finally agreed to destroy the tapes and sign affidavits confirming their destruction. However, some cast members believe Hanks kept copies. The revelation permanently damaged their relationships with Hanks and explained why so few That Thing You Do cast members have worked with him again.
I have wasted thousands and thousands of kisses on you. Kisses that I thought were special because of...
Number 2. The movie's time period is actually completely wrong. That Thing You Do claims to take place from June through October 1964, but careful viewers have spotted dozens of anachronisms proving the time period is impossible. The film shows the wonders watching television coverage of events that hadn't happened yet in 1964. A radio broadcast mentions a song that wasn't released until 1965. Newspaper headlines visible in background shots reference events from 1966. Most damning is a scene showing a movie theater marquee, advertising films not released until 1967. History professors and 60s experts have cataloged over 40 specific temporal impossibilities in the film. Some believe Tom Hanks deliberately created a fantasy version of the 60s that compressed the entire decade into 1 year. Others think these are simply careless mistakes from inadequate research. The most bizarre element is that certain fashion and technology shown in the film are from the 1950s, creating a strange temporal blend spanning 15 years. Music historians particularly note that the musical styles performed by various bands in the film represent different years from 1961 through 1968, all supposedly happening simultaneously. Hanks has never adequately explained these contradictions. In one interview, he suggested the film takes place in an emotional 60s rather than the literal historical decade, but critics argue this is artistic pretension covering sloppy research. That Thing You Do exists in an impossible timeline that blends multiple years into an incoherent but emotionally satisfying, nostalgic fantasy.
Hi, yeah, just
Six group.
Hi.
They're all locals. They call Erie home.
Number 1. Tom Hanks made the film to process his grief over his mother's death. Tom Hanks. The real story behind That Thing You Do is heartbreaking. Tom Hanks' mother, Janet, died in 1994, shortly before he wrote the screenplay. She'd been his closest confidant, and her death devastated him. That manic 3-day writing session wasn't creative inspiration. It was grief processing. Every element of That Thing You Do reflects Hanks working through his loss. The film's obsessive recreation of 1964 wasn't just nostalgia. That was the year Hanks's parents divorced, the last time his family was intact before everything fell apart. The Wonder's brief moment of fame, followed by inevitable dissolution, mirrors Hanks's childhood family disintegrating. Guy Patterson's strained relationship with his father directly reflects Hanks's complicated feelings about his own father after his parents' divorce. Faye represents the idealized maternal figure Hanks had just lost. The entire film is essentially Hanks trying to cinematically return to the last moment his childhood was happy, before divorce destroyed his family and adult complications began. Friends close to Hanks have confirmed that making That Thing You Do was a therapeutic grieving process disguised as entertainment. The film's obsessive attention to period detail was Hanks trying to literally reconstruct 1964, to somehow return to that time before loss. This explains why test audiences found the original dark ending so devastating. Hanks was going to end with permanent loss and disappointment, reflecting his own grief. Fox forcing the happy ending was actually therapeutic, making Hanks create hope rather than wallow in sadness. That Thing You Do isn't really about a band. It's one man's elaborate attempt to resurrect his dead mother and repair his broken childhood through fictional nostalgia. There you have it. 20 weird facts about That Thing You Do that even Tom Hanks fans never knew. Which fact shocked you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie secrets. Until next time, keep That Thing You Do going.